Good afternoon. This Township of Selwyn Committee of Adjustment meeting of December the 10th, 2024 will come to order. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of the committee, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, please note that in the minutes. We are dealing with minor variance application A3124, and I'll turn it over to Per, our planner, to announce the purpose of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Committee of Adjustment is holding a public hearing in accordance with Section 45 of the Planning Act as in order to consider one application for relief from bylaw 2009-021 being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of Selwyn. The prescribed notice of public hearing was provided in this case because of the Canada Post strike. We hand delivered to most of the residents along the street, and one resident at Ottawa we delivered via courier. So all residents within 60 meters did receive notice. The sign was also posted on the subject lands. The notice was also available on the township's website. The notice circulation complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. If a person or public body would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Selwyn, but does not make oral submissions at the public hearing, make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment for the committee, gives or refuses to give approval to the application, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Selwyn in respect of the proposed variances before the committee gives or refuses to give approval to the applications, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, providing your name and address or email address. So the application today, as stated, Madam Chair, is A31-24. This is for 59 Lakeshore Boulevard. This is specifically for to permit the development of the 850 square foot, 56 square foot detached garage. Never does that. Can't say that anymore.
No.
I think you go out. Yeah, I go through here. We'll get his alarm goes off there.
I know. There's a red button, is there? You can push it, stop. Oh, there it is.
Mine, you have to like get in.
Or the battery goes dead. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, here he comes.
Well, that's exciting.
I hope this is the shades of things to come.
Yeah. So yeah, 59 Lakeshore Boulevard, 856 square foot detached garage. Just for the committee's information, this is the existing garage was actually previously approved through previous minor variance of A36-02. So part of the variances that we're including in this variance, in case the project doesn't move forward, is a recognition of the fact that the existing garage was not built with the setback in accordance with the previous minor variance.
Okay.
So the reliefs requested for the new garage are to increase the height of a detached garage from 6 meters to 7.52 meters, to reduce the front yard setbacks for a new accessory detached garage from 7.5 meters to 4.36 meters, and to reduce the setback to a new accessory detached garage from the center line of a public road from 17.5 meters to 14.36 meters. Excuse me. The existing garage setbacks that we're also recognizing are to reduce the setback of an existing garage from 7.5 meters to 2.89 meters. And to reduce the setback to an existing garage from the center line of a public road from 17.5 meters to 12.89 meters. We have comments of no concern from County Public Works, the Core of the Pine Ridge District School Board, and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority. I find that the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, and I do recommend the application for approval. Those are my comments. We also have one letter of opposed from Peter McLean, who is here today with us.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else here that is in favor of this application? Seeing none, and no one was online, Madam Deputy Clerk?
We have no one here online, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have Mr. Peter McLean here. Did you wish to speak to this application?
Yes.
If you do, can you go to the microphone and give us your address? And your name.
Okay, I'm Peter McLean. I live at 57 Lakeshore. I'm the western neighbor of the Riberos. Is that microphone working for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just gonna try and look at my notes, make sure So my wife Ewan and I are here to talk to you today. We're the owners of our family cottage, originally purchased by my grandmother, 64, from the developer of Emerald Isle, Bose and Cox. Never been to a variance hearing before now, so we appreciate your patience, support. We're learning about the process as we go. Thank you. Our first set of comments are on the garage height request. Standing on our lot, the local ground height already means a new garage will be extremely high at 6 meters. The application does not appear to quote the height of the existing garage for comparison purposes, and we did not trespass to measure it, but it looks to be less than 6 meters and is already high. The permitted 6 meters will be additionally unpleasant, but those are the rules. 7.52 meters will be overbearing and oppressive when considered from our lot. There's also no information on the variance application about soffit and or other lighting on the garage, which provides another significant worry for us. The existing house is very tall, with an excess of soffit lights and other lighting that are on a timer every night, including when John and Ashley are not there. And those lights flood our backyard, side yard, and high windows with light pollution. This garage, right, built at 7.52 meters with matching lighting, which we have no information on, is unnecessary and will impede stargazing. It's not the big city here. The lighting used is completely inappropriate. Adding an overheight garage with what we can only imagine is more excessive lighting based on the current precedent near the road is a bad plan. People on Emerald Isle walk in a passeggiata, like a European style, dogs and everybody at night. They don't want more light and a big garage encroaching Lakeshore Boulevard. It's a boulevard. This garage in the front yard, looking at ours, will also provide some shade on our front porch, in our opinion. We haven't done a light study for shade, but my parents sit there when it's windy from the lake, and that's where they hide from the wind and enjoy the morning sun. Right, I'm a son that's taken over this cottage, so my parents who live in a condo in Peterborough can still visit and use it. So I know we're tight for time. I have some points on the distance to the road as well, because I'm concerned about that. There's some other issues, but in general, that's my main point. Ewan may have a few other words, but I don't know how these go. I have a larger set of comments I could make, but we are very much opposed to this minor variance,
Okay.
and as well the setback as well.
Okay, so have you at all had a conversation with your neighbor about this?
So John and I talked initially about other things.
You're the
He's the
owner?
neighbor.
When I asked if there was anyone here, you didn't.
Anybody that was here for or opposed, but I'm not for or opposed to the property, so I'm just.
Okay, all right.
being kind
Usually if you're the owner, you're for.
Sorry, I just didn't respond.
Okay, just a bit confusing. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So have you talked to each other?
not about this application.
I haven't seen meters since the fall.
Okay, so I think that maybe a conversation would be good to have with regards to the lighting if it's obtrusive. I will refer to our planner if you have any comments on what was said there, Per.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to lighting, our zoning regulations do not regulate lighting. So it's not an issue before the committee of adjustment. Likewise, sight lines as an aesthetic value has been deemed by the Ontario Land Tribunal to not be a valid planning issue.
Yeah, so, but the thing is, you both live beside each other. It might be a good idea to have a little chat. And if the lighting is too strong and it's obtrusive, maybe you can tone it down, right? Even though it has nothing to do with this application, the opportunity exists for you to have a chat.
You can definitely do, but it's more of a security reason for the moment.
Yeah, understand.
Can be turned off. It's not a big deal.
All right, is there anyone, there was no one else that had put it online to register to oppose this, so I'll bring it. to
Madam
the committee.
Mayor?
Yeah.
The road gets more walking in the summer, obviously. Right? And there's many seasonal residents who might not be on the website, who are not within 60 meters. Right? Who may not have seen A-31.24 on the township website.
Right.
I know Per said this, and I completely trust him, that this is in accordance with the announcements and the notification of the rules. But I do not think people will be happy to see this garage built at 7.52 meters, encroaching the road with lighting as people walk next summer. I think this is incorrect and should not be built.
Okay, you
Seriously.
made your point, sir.
Okay.
Yes. You'll have to go down there on the microphone. We are online and no one can hear you online unless you're on the microphone.
Thank you very much. My
Can
name
I-
is Yiwen. I'm the co-owner of 57 Lakeshore.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions. People on the island have heard that it was the intention of the garage is actually to add bedrooms upstairs. My question is, because that was always the intent. I heard it secondhand. So my question is, what measure is going to be put in place? And whether if there was a bedrooms put on top of the garage on the upper level, what zoning, if it affects the zoning application?
It's a minor variance application.
But my understanding, I have called for other questions about additional structure on the lot in Selwyn for our area. And my understanding is whether or not for the use, the intended purpose use of the garage, of the building would entail of certain setbacks, different setbacks.
I'll leave that to Per to answer.
So through you, Madam Chair. So at present time, the space above the garage is for storage space. The Lakeshore Residential Zone does not permit a second unit within a detached structure such as this garage. In order to do so would require a zoning amendment. And I believe I have to look further into that, whether we could even support that given official plan rules around second units. So at present time, there is no second unit issue before the Committee of Adjustment.
Okay, I have one last question.
Yes.
Is what is the roof outline of the garage? Is that is that a flat roof, and how is it peaked and slanted? Is that part of the zoning as well, or?
So through you, Madam Chair. So it's a peaked roof. But the design of the roof is not regulated by our zoning bylaw, just the height of it is.
Okay, so we would expect just a roof and that's it, because I see the footprint is
Yeah.
not a square building.
So through you, Madam Chair, I can send the design drawing for the structure to your email.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much. Okay, I'll bring it to committee now. Are there any questions? Member Black.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So the existing concrete pad, it looks like it goes into the boulevard right now. Is that staying as part of the plan?
So through you, Madam Chair, thanks for your question there, Ron. We have addressed that through a condition of the approval of the variance. That either be removed or that an encroachment agreement be entered into with the township to our satisfaction.
Follow up?
Mhm.
So the entrance into the garage, is it off the boulevard or do they go in the driveway and go in this way now? Is it changed?
So
Uh,
through you, Madam Chair, I get, yeah, it goes in facing towards the east, which is onto the,
Concrete pad?
well, no, it's towards the driveway more, not towards the pad. The
Oh.
pad faces the road, right?
Right,
So it's the other direction towards the house more.
okay.
Yeah.
So the cars, there's no chance those cars are gonna be backed out onto the road at all?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I am looking for a motion to approve this application. Moved by member Boyko, seconded by member Coulis, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. We have no deferred matters. We have minutes of November 26th, 2024. Someone to move them, please. Member Black and member Coulis, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you. And a motion to adjourn. Our next meeting's January the 14th, 2025. Member Boyko and member Black, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. We'll begin our council meeting as soon as we get everybody in here.
I've never been here before. What is the criteria for in favor, like versus uphold? Because we care about this issue deeply and we respect your opinion, but I like to have a better understanding of what is, what, like, do we need more forums or polls for you guys to consider your opinion or how?
No, we- It's up to the committee based on the information given to them. And if they vote in favor, then that's it. Yeah, thank you.
In the report, it says that there are, according to provincial, there's 4 tests that any change that comes to us has to meet. And you probably get a copy of it, maybe you've got it already, I don't know, but there are 4 tests, so what PER looks at is, it doesn't meet this, but it meet this, and it has to meet all 4. And then PER recommends that we accept it, and we can say no to PER if we want to or not, but there are, so there are established criteria by the province. And then that someone township then adopts. So there's 4, some very specific criteria that are part of the report.
No opposition to the recommendation by residents is not really relevant with the recommendation from her. That's right.
Not necessarily, but I'm gonna stop this now because there's a council meeting, and there's a lot of people waiting to come in, and we have adjourned. Thank you.
But the short answer is yes, it is Bill.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how do we get more information about it?
Talk to him, talk to Per. Thank you. Yeah. I don't know. All right, we will bring this Township of Selwyn regular council meeting of December the tenth, 2024 to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and territory, traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so the council, staff, and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof for what we're dealing with today? Seeing none, please note that in the minutes. We have our minutes of November the 26th, 2024, and November the 21st, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to look at them? No errors or omissions? Is there someone that will approve them? Councillor Boyko and Deputy Mayor Black, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Is there any discussion out of the minutes? Seeing none, we have the obvious pleasure of offering up long service awards to our staff and employees. And our first one is going to be done by Adam. And it's for Jennifer McElwain to come up with us. And I'm going to ask all the council to come up with a picture. I'll do your speech first.
Okay. All right. I guess you have to come up.
Do it over here in the middle.
Wherever.
We don't do the song.
So thanks, Madam Mayor, through you. I'm honored to award a 15-year long service award to Jennifer McElwain. Jen started back in 2008 under Rob Lamar as a admin assistant on a temporary contract. And then in 2009, accepted a full-time position as our public works admin assistant. Jen's the heart of the department, as shown by all the staff here in support. Her dedication and knowledge is an asset to the township, and honored to present this award. Congratulations.
We have to squeeze together.
Next, we have Scott Hurd. Scott actually joined Selwyn Township back in 1991 as a volunteer firefighter. He was a volunteer firefighter for 30+ years until he retired last September. Scott started as the equipment operator labor March 2009 and has been a key staff who shows pride and dedication in his work. Thanks a lot, Scott. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, so we also have number of volunteer firefighting long service awards of 25 years plus. Working up here. First recipient is Great Cross for 30 years.
So I get a bit of a wrap. They'll come up with a total of 235 years of service. But that's a while.
Yeah.
Right, was an original 8-builder, so we moved on to, and we'll go through the more Wakefield and then so 30 years. That, it's,
Congratulations. Next up, we have Lake Mills. I have Sandra.
Still on, even though he's retired. From the town, that one. 2 years. Oh, that's something. Anyway, it's still perfect.
The Garrett.
Now we're getting into the older order.
So again, Dave, senior captain Lakefield, again, another original from the Lakefield crew. So, and it come up through the ranks and from the little guy when he was first come on way back in 84 and 40 years, 3 of us here tonight. So, or this afternoon. So Dave, 40 years.
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations. And next we have, Team Rossboro.
Yeah, Jim, another one of the original Lakefields, and I actually the first Rossboro that was on the department.
so.
And the only one.
I think so.
I think so. Anyway. Yeah. So Jim, 40 years.
Thank you.
And hopefully a few more for out of you guys. So awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Guess who's next?
You. Old night.
So I am pleased to recognize Gord with his 40 years of being a volunteer. Actually, 26 of those years, he's actually been full-time fire chief. He was our first full-time fire chief and was appointed to that position in 1998 when we amalgamated. He'd been a volunteer with the Township of Smith for about 14 years prior to that. So he's certainly led the department through a lot of change and a lot of seen a lot of things. So thanks for all your service, Gord. It's much appreciated and congratulations. Here's to 40 more.
Well, Gordon. Hold on.
All right.
40 more.
Thanks, Chance.
All right, no, we have
Yeah.
more.
Now we get into the originals way back. And you know, I'm proud that he wore one of the original Ennismore jackets. So I'm gonna call up Paul Murray, 50 years firefighting. So Paul wasn't long after in 61 when Ennismore started, maybe about 9 years. And along with Paul Murray, he's the second longest on of the original Ennismore crew and come up through. So I've seen changes, they've seen changes. He's really seen changes. So and Paul's still with us and I hope he is for a little bit more. And Linda's here and she's had to put up with all that 50 years of him. So
Yeah.
Paul, 50 years.
Thanks, Chief.
Impressive,
Yes.
impressive.
Can I get all the firefighters up and we'll just take one group photo with council, please?
Yeah.
Work on it all. Okay, big smile. Perfect. Hold that. Thanks, but yes,
Great, thank you. Here's your score. Oh my, let the cat out of the bag. I didn't know. Where are they here?
Did you think you would stand it for Sparky?
No, it's that. No.
I think there's something else. Well, it depends.
Yeah, there is.
They just switched up.
Yeah.
When needed. Yeah, but that's why I was like, I had to pause for a minute, 'cause I didn't want to also correct.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Thank goodness. Anyways, okay. Yeah, I would think so. What time is it now? So it's just shy of having our public meeting. So, maybe we should, go, is there any questions for question period, Madam Clerk?
No questions.
Thank you. We can't do the zoning because it's not 1:30. Let me see. I don't. Yeah,
Do you want to do the consent items?
yeah, let's do the consent items and then we'll come back to the rest of it. So is there anything that anyone wants pulled on this? So, we have, Councillor Boyko,
There's two. One is 5D,
yes,
which is Kim's report about the fire recruitment.
right,
And the second one that I'd like discussed is the 6A 4 correspondence from the officer of the Solicitor General about the OPP billing.
and Deputy Mayor Black, did you have your hand up? He's picked them. Okay, nobody else. All right, let's go. Let's approve all the ones that haven't been pulled yet. So, can I have someone make a motion to approve the balance? Deputy Mayor Black and Councillor Koulis, all in favor? It's carried. We will go first to, actually, I wanted 5C pulled, so we can go to that one first. Kim? Looking at 5C. I just have a question. We seem to have had a lot of recruitment over the past year. And I'm just, would like you to speak to that, please.
Well, we certainly have had some, we've spoken about this previously in other council meetings, but we've certainly had some recruitment challenges. We've done lots of recruiting this year. I've had over 20 files. We've had challenges in several departments, public works, water and wastewater, building and planning, asset management. Being able to recruit qualified candidates has been an issue, or a challenge, I should say, being able to attract qualified and interested candidates. Even our new positions we've had to recruit for with water and wastewater. So whether it's replacing staff or keeping staff, we've had some challenges with regards to staffing this year.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we will go to 5D. Councillor Boyko.
Yes, thank you through Mayor Senes. I don't know if this question is for Kim or for our chief, but when I looked at the fire department recruit update, I noticed that we've got a net loss of 5 and it's spread throughout the halls. But Hall 1 is down 3 people and Hall 5 is down 4 people. Is this something that worries you, that should worry council? Is this something that is being addressed? And if so, how is it being addressed to make sure that we've got enough people, not only overall, but in each of the halls?
Yeah, through Mayor Sims, yeah, we're in good shape right now. We take in account that, we can take so many on and off and some leaves. But we've had halls 1, 2, and 5. We usually have good numbers of applicants come in. Halls 3 and 4, not so much. I worry more about the 2 satellite halls than I do the other 3. Hall 2 was a little short this year, but we've got a good crew on there, so. And we haven't really had to go out and do any media input to get anybody. So, yeah, when actually, I think since we did it, I've probably 10 more applications have come in since our last recruitment. We're in good shape, so.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And then the last one is 6, number 4, the Office of the Solicitor General, and Councillor Boyko.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Sanis. Yeah, the report that we see, I'm looking at 6A number 4, because there's a number of them about the OPP. So I'm looking at the one that's from the Officer of the Solicitor General, and I think this question is for Lane. We see the numbers there in that report where the bill was going to be 2.5, I'm rounding, but 2.5 million, and now it's down to 2.14 million for the OPP for 2025, and the province is giving us relief of about 353K. I guess my question is going to be to you, Lane, through the mayor. How is that different from last year's number? Is it significantly higher in terms of dollars or percentage? So that's one question. And the second question, there's nothing in the Solicitor General's letter that says we're going to receive any relief in 2026. Is this a one-time relief payment? Do you have any information that's not in that letter? Or will we be looking at a ballooned OPP billing coming forward in 2026?
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so the original or the initial estimate that had come in had $132,000 of reconciliation to do with 2023. We've traditionally funded that through our reserve or accumulated revenue, so we don't actually pass that along through the area rate. We take care of any reconciliation. So that has been adjusted again, but we will fund that portion through accumulated revenue. The revised estimate for the year is an increase over last year's area rate of still about $78,000. If we follow past practice, we would follow that through on our area rate, so that the area rate would go up at least that much, that's about 3.78%. But to your second question, that's the more concerning one. If we looked at 2026 based on what we know about their wages, which is the bulk of that estimate, that number is about $285,000, which would be another 13% for 2026. And then, taking a look ahead, we could project as well for some more wage increases. So we're definitely looking at different ways that we can mitigate that, maybe through a phase in over a number of years, something like that. I guess the other, first of all, I should have acknowledged the province's support, because it's definitely discerning to get a bill that big this late in the year. The other kind of interesting point in that letter is that they have committed to looking at a billing model change and looking at that as well. So Janice and I discussed that in a couple of different sessions. And so whether we look at some type of a phase-in program, or whether that actually does come to fruition somehow, and they look at maybe the cost sharing of the provincial share versus municipal share, something like that. But yeah, when you're looking at retroactive pays and large increases that was outlined in that letter, that's definitely what we're looking at with an expense that's primarily wages.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
I think that, Elaine, having said that, we're not the only municipality that's going to be faced with these increases. And I think it's going to be worthwhile to lobby and advocate with the government to ensure that they recognize that we can't afford such increases. It's too late to do anything with Roma, but I think we should have in line for AMO that we go to the Solicitor General, let them know what our feelings are about the whole thing. Councillor Coolidge.
It's like a clarification question for you. Is the Eastern Caucus or anything doing that on our behalf? Like, are we doing this on top of that, or are they doing it for us?
I don't believe that there is anything planned for the Roma meeting, but with AMO, definitely. They have a very strong voice, and I think it's partly because of them that there was such quick action to take it down in the first place. So yes. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you through you. Thanks for that, those numbers, Lane. I think that's important to put it in context. Just for clarification, you said there was 132,000 adjustment. Was that an additional cost for 2024 that wasn't in the original budget, or is that carry over from 23 or?
Yeah, so it's, they reconcile and they're 2 years behind always.
Okay, that's
So
what I
that,
thought.
so that's a 2023 reconciliation, but that would be a bill coming to us in 2025. Yeah.
Right. Oh, in 2025, it's not expected to be paid through 2024's budget? No?
No.
Okay. You know, I guess the good news, bad news is we haven't had big increases for the last few years because contracts haven't been approved, but this is what happens when you have to include 3 years worth of salary increases for any part of our business. So it's unfortunate that we are fortunate the province has kicked in some, but it's still you know, at $78,000, it's equivalent to 1% in our budget moving forward. I know it's 3.78% increase in their leasing budget, but that represents almost a full point for next year. That's in the budget if I follow the numbers correctly.
Is spread over less people too, because it's only Smith and Ennismore.
Yeah.
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 So-
Is that my assumption correct there?
High level numbers, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we need a motion to approve the other consent items that we had pulled. Councillor Boyko, Councillor Coolidge, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We will now move into our public meeting. We are looking at zoning bylaw amendments, and I will turn it over to our planner to announce the purpose of the meeting here.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Council of the Township of Sullivan is holding a public meeting in accordance with section 34 of the Planning Act in order to consider two applications today from for an amendment. The prescribed notice of public meeting was provided to be a prepaid first-class mail prior to the Canada Post strike to all residents with a 120-meter radius of the property subject to the applications, as well as by a sign posted on the subject lands. The notices were also available on the county and township websites. Sorry, just the township website. The notice circulation complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. If a person or public body would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of Sullivan, but does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Sullivan in respect to the zoning bylaw amendment before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the zoning amendment, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Township of Sullivan in respect of the proposed zoning amendment before the approval authority gives or refuses to give approval to the zoning amendment, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Council of the Township of Sullivan in respect of the proposed zoning amendment, you must make written request to the Township of Sullivan, providing your name and address or email address. So the first zoning amendment before us today is C09-24. This is for Triple T Holdings, Lot 26, Concession 7 in Lakefield. As council may recall, this is related to Official Plan Amendment 71 for the approval of 4 lots that are external to the subdivision approval for Lakefield South. This is the 4th of the lots. The zoning amendment specifically is rezoning the severed parcel from development D zone residential type 1 zone and environmental protection zone to residential type 1 exception 616 and environmental protection zone. I find that the application is consistent with the provincial planning system, provincial planning statement, as well as it conforms to the township and county official plans. We have comments of no concern from Parks Canada, Trent Severn Waterway, Enbridge, County Public Works, the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority. We have 4 letters or emails of opposition from Dave Andrews, Janet Darling, and just recently today, earlier this morning, Beverly Peavers. Janet Darling is specifically concerned for impacts to Rays Creek, and Beverly Peavers has a number of concerns. Just let me see here. Again, concern for Rays Creek, impact on Indigenous lands, removal of opportunities for teaching students of Lakefield District's public school about the Indigenous lands, I guess. Just go reading through here real quick to see if there's anything else. Concern over removing beloved dog trails and neighborhood green space. I did respond to Beverly in regard to the removal of green space, that this is private property already. The subject property is available right now for a building permit within the R1 zone on the existing lot of record. The severance application has been given provisional consent, as well as I mentioned, the official plan amendment has been approved by the County of Peterborough. So we're just in the final stages now, rezoning the severed parcel for the future use in accordance with recommendations from the official plan amendment from the Conservation Authority, requiring some adjustment to the environmental protection zone lands. There's a slight increase in those to the rear of the property. Outside the EP zone, there's about a half an acre available for development. Also, the lot frontage is a little bit reduced in the range of 30-ish meters. Off the top of my head, the R1 zone typically requires 45 meters. So we're just recognizing the slightly reduced lot frontage. Again, I recommend the zoning amendment for approval, and those are my comments.
All right, thank you very much. And is there anyone here that is in favor of this application? Would you like to take the microphone and give us your name and address, please? Oh, the mic here. I got the mic. We'll get it to you. We'll get it to you.
Now I can walk around like I'm hosting a TV show. Thank you, Mayor Senes. My name is Kent Randall with EcoView Consulting. I can just hold it for now. We're the planners for the applicant Triple T Holdings. I don't have much to add as in terms of what Per said. It's a condition of consent, provisional consent, that was granted by the Land Division Committee a few months ago. If council recalls, there were 4 consent applications that were involved with this OPA. 3 of them have already been dealt with, and the conditions are currently being cleared on them. The reason for this one being held off was that the Peterborough Public Health had some concerns with septic design for the site, but those have been resolved. In terms of responding to those public comments, the Rays Creek, and I think it was pointed out by Per, the EP zone on this property will actually be increased. So that's going to ensure the protection of Rays Creek, ensure the protection of floodplain. And as is always the case with these consent applications, or has been the case with these consent applications, it's not part of the greater subdivision application, the OPA and ZBA and subdivision that are currently in process and will be coming at a later date. So I think that's about it for me, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And there was no one that was registered to speak virtually against this application or for it. There's no one here virtually for this application, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. And so I will now bring it to council. Are there any questions? Councillor Boyko.
Through you, Mayor Senes, I just want to get maybe some clarification, and I think you explained this, Per, but it must have gone by me. I'm reading Janet Darling's letter. I read it the other day about 30 meters. Looks like it's taking up half the lot. We're concerned for Rays Creek. Is there enough? I know when it comes to building a house on the thing, then we talk about where the house is going to be and the rest to give the proper setback. Is there room when we're talking about setback up from the creek and back from the road? Is there room on this lot for a building to be built eventually? And tied to that, you said the septic design has been addressed. How has that been addressed? So two questions. That's the two questions.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So through your worship, yeah, so there's roughly about a half acre outside the modified EP zone that we're doing through the zoning amendment. Generally speaking, the size of the dwelling on the lot and the size of the septic system will obviously be tied together, right? So depending on the scale of the home, the septics and the number of bedrooms and then fixtures, et cetera. So that'll have to be taken into consideration at building permit stage and the township's building or the septic review from the township now at building permit stage. Those two little things will have to go hand in hand. Potentially, there will be a need for a variance, let's say, for a side yard setback or a front yard or rear yard setback, you know, to accommodate a future dwelling on the site, but that'll come at a later date.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, so through the mayor to answer Councillor Boyko's question. But in turn, just to add on to what Paris said, there is sufficient space now as it is. Like, we didn't request any additional relief because there is sufficient space as far as we're concerned, as far as Triple T is concerned. In terms of the septic system, my understanding is that Peterborough Public Health they had done a site visit. It was not with the applicant. They weren't sure about where the system was going to be located. They went out with the applicant on another site visit and it was pointed out to them. And I think they were just unsure about where it was going to fit in terms of that building envelope. But that, as far as I could tell, was the main issue. But that's been resolved, as I said.
Okay, thank you. Thanks,
Are
Brad.
there any other questions? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of us. Is there someone here prepared to move the recommendation? Deputy Mayor Black and seconded by Councillor Koulis, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. We will now move on to our second zoning bylaw amendment application, part lot 18, concession 8. Per.
Thank you. Press the button. So this second zoning amendment is also a consent related zoning amendment. We're rezoning the subject property from the severed parcel from rural zone to rural residential exception 617. The exception is just needed again to recognize a deficient lot area, 0.36 hectares as opposed to 0.405 hectares, which is 1 acre. So it's slightly under 1 acre in size. The severance is a technical severance. This is actually just across the street from us. It's an inadvertently merged parcel. The lot was created many years ago, but inadvertently merged. So the county is recreating the lot on application from the landowner. And so we're just providing the correct zoning for that lot to be developed as a residential lot. Again, I find that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms to the county and township official plans. And I recommend the zoning amendment for approval. In terms of comments from agency comments, we received comments of no concern from the Conservation Authority, Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Enridge, County Public Works, and Perks Canada Trent Summer Waterway.
Thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, is there anyone that has registered to speak in favor or against this application?
No.
Thank you. And I will bring it to council. Are there any questions? Councillor Boyko.
A phrase that fascinates me. What does inadvertently merged mean?
Through your worship, it's a technical thing that happens under the Planning Act. So if a lot was not created by consent or subdivision, there's a bit of history to that, but generally they're lots created before 1970. And so if you put two lots under the exact same ownership, they automatically become one lot. So then in order to correct that, the county has a process for that, which is a technical severance to unmerge and inadvertently merge parcels.
Deputy Mayor Black.
Inadvertent.
Thank you, through the Mayor Sennis. Yeah, and that's not the case today now. The Planning Act doesn't automatically merge lots under the same ownership.
Think.
It still does, but they've written up a couple of new exceptions, such as when a spouse passes away. So if you have two lots owned by a couple and they have both names in the name of the couple, sorry.
The other way.
So
yeah.
one lot is in the couple and one name is in the living spouse. Technically, they would have merged together in the past because now all of a sudden they're under the same ownership. That doesn't happen anymore. There's an exception for that. That you don't have to go through this process of technical severance.
Right.
When a spouse passes.
Right. Follow up. So here, just in the existing zoning is rural zone versus rural residential exception 617. In the rural zone, can you put a residence on a rural zone already?
Yes, so through you, Madam, your worship. Yes, you can, but the setbacks are different.
Okay.
So it's more appropriate to zone the lot for rural residential. The rural zone also allows farm uses, which we would not want to carry forward for an acre size lot.
Quarter of an acre, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Right, so if there are no further questions, we do have a recommendation in front of us. Is there someone prepared to move that recommendation? Okay, Councillor Boyko, just waiting for a hand. Councillor Koulis, seconding, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Now, we have now Jane Mazensky from Gallagher Benefit Services that is going to be talking to us about council remuneration review. Good afternoon. Yep.
So Gallagher, I've actually been we were receiving
There we go.
It's
Thank
the
you.
people online that can't.
Oh, okay. All right. It's Amanda's listening to me. So, okay. So, we were engaged to do the council remuneration review, and it's looking at base remuneration, per diems, any expenses that are allowable or permissible under the bylaw. And we take a look at the remuneration levels against a comparator group of municipalities. It is not, unlike the competition that we would have under a staff review, we're not looking to be, are you competitive, but are you comparable, or are you at least aligned to the municipalities that we have selected as your comparator organizations? Because obviously you don't compete for the positions in terms of pay. Considerations that we take a look at when we are doing council reviews is to make sure that the compensation, as best as we can, that it reflects their respective roles, so making sure that we have a mayor, a deputy mayor, and the councillor roles, that there's some distinction between the different levels of the roles. And is it respectful of the overall responsibilities and the time commitment as well that's required for members of the elected council. Make sure, or as best as we can, again, it's not an exact science when it comes to council reviews, but making sure that it's fair and reasonable relative to the other organizations. So are you doing anything that is unique, which might be a good thing, or are you an outlier against any of the other comparator organizations? And then is it in the remuneration, is it in a framework that or a bylaw policy that's sustainable and reasonable given the current practices that we have across the organizations? And in that regard, again, we're looking at affordability, fairness, and relativity. So the report that was provided to council outlines our findings and our observations. Okay. So we had 12 comparator organizations that we solicited for this review. There are a couple that are new to the review from the previous review. Essentially, we've dropped Oro Medonte and Greater Napanee, which were included in the 2021 review. In part, they were dropped because they did not respond to our solicitations. So non-participation, you can't draw blood from a stone necessarily. So we did add a couple of other comparator organizations. We added Asphodel, Norwood, Brighton, and Romera were included in this review for as being similar sized organizations and relative to this organization in the township. We developed a survey questionnaire, solicited all of these comparator organizations. We asked them about what is the base remuneration, what are the per diems, if you are paying per diems, what are the rules around those per diems? Are there any allowable expenses? Some, not very often, but sometimes you'll have a car allowance or some other kind of allowances. And then eligibility to enroll in benefits and pension plans as well with the township. And I spelled enrollment wrong, I see. So we took the results of the survey and tabulated the responses so that we could provide you with this our observations as to where you stand relative to this comparator group of organizations. Oops, I knew I went too fast. No, still too fast. There we go, I think. Now I can't turn my page. So taking a look at all of those 12 comparator organizations and tabulating them for the base remuneration, we have taken a look at where your base remuneration stands relative to the middle of the market or market P50. Where do you stand relative to market P55, which is a little bit higher, and then market P60 as well. So where exactly are you landing relative to those organizations? So in the table that's provided on the slide, we wherever we have the percent gap, if there are brackets, it means that the township is paying higher than what the statistic is offering. So for example, the mayor, the township is at median, the township is above the middle of the market by 12.1%. If you see a plus sign in the gap to market, it means that you are under that market statistic data point. Looking across all three positions, across all three different market percentiles where you're going to land, we basically would say that you are landing between the 55th percentile and the 60th percentile, which it means that you're not leading all of the municipalities, you're not the top payer in this comparator group, but you're also not lagging the market. So you're not at the bottom of the group as well. So you're fairly comfortably, a little bit above the middle of the organizations. Oh dear, I've got a heavy thumb. Okay, maybe I should let you take over this slide. Okay, there we go. Per diems. Per diems, we often see per diems more prevalent at the county level as opposed to at the township or the lower tier levels, but they're not unheard of at this level. The Township of Selwyn does offer a per diem to the members of council, but there are some caveats around that. It has to be so many meetings over your standard amount, or any additional meetings that are required. So there are some parameters on it, and there's also a dollar cap to it as well. Across the comparators, there was only 2 others that did offer per diems. They were very similar in structure in terms of the dollar value and having some caveats in terms of you can't just, bankroll yourself with the per diems going to every council meeting or every meeting possible or whatever. So there are some caveats on that. So there's only 2 out of the 12 that are doing the same. So in that regard, we would say that the Township of Selwyn Council benefit is a little bit higher than what is being offered. Travel expenses, pretty well, it's on a per kilometer basis, nothing unusual outstanding in any of the expenses here. It is aligned with what the comparators are doing at this point in time. It doesn't seem to be a big distinguisher in any way, shape, or form. I think maybe several years ago, we might have seen some more differences. Next slide. Sorry. Oh, okay. So the members have access to insured health and benefits, health, dental, vision benefits, insured benefits, basically, within the county, with the township. So that's aligned to what the comparator organizations are doing, is basically saying you have access to it if you would like to enroll. Premiums is a little bit different. Most of the, or a larger percentage of the comparator organizations are paying 100% of those premiums, whereas at this township, the township is only paying 50% of the premiums. And the member who enrolls in those benefit plans is paying the other 50% of the premium. So in that respect, we do say that this might be an opportunity if you were looking to improve a benefit for the members of council. None of the comparators really predominantly had any access to life insurance or to the pension plan, the owner's pension plan. Some of them do offer these benefits, but I would not say it was the trend in any way, shape, or form. Access to technology because of COVID, I think this became actually a bigger issue where everyone was issued a laptop, a cell phone. And then there's, the internet charges, having to, log in from home and so forth. So the township does offer the members access to the corporate telecommunications plan. I think this is a little bit better than what's being offered by some of your municipal comparators. But I would not say that it's, anything that is an extremely high outlier in any regard based on the comparator organizations as well as other organizations that I've seen across the province of the similar size. So being presented as a result of the analysis is that we are suggesting that you're at the 60th percentile for the most part. So we would suggest that that should in fact be your pay policy. It's typical for a council to have a very similar pay policy as would be applied for staff. But given that you're at the 60th percentile, we are saying move to the 60th percentile and adopt it formally as your pay policy. In so doing, what that would translate into is that the counselor-based pay is pretty well at P60 right now. So we maintain that as status quo, but have minor adjustments for the mayor and the deputy mayor roles. So the mayor would be adjusted by 0.5%. And the deputy mayor role at 1.6% to align to that 60th percentile target rate. Maintaining your expenses and other benefits because they are reflective of best practices across your comparator group and across the sector. Continue to adjust the base remuneration annually, just as you would, it's a COLA or a cost of living increase or an inflationary increase. So that's good best practice. And then also conducting a market review like this at least once per term of council is often our best practice recommendation that we offer to our council members. Okay, and I think that's the last of the slides, so.
All right, well, thank you very much. Are there any questions of Jane? Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor Sennis. Thanks for the report. Very, very detailed and just a couple of quick questions. So when you ask these other municipalities to share their information with you, you share this information back to them?
We try and avoid that because the municipality is paying our consulting fees. So, you know, for another municipality to benefit from your generosity is up to you, but we don't offer it up front as a participant report.
So the municipalities, well, the municipality will be asked first before releasing.
Yes, I wouldn't release it without asking.
Now, follow,
Mhm.
I just noticed the majority of the comparators are smaller than ours. Is it hard to find the comparator of 20,000 people and?
I think when we looked at the statistics, it might have been because we were building on the 2022 review or 2021 review that maybe there have been some population shifts. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's difficult to find the same size, but these ones seem to be resonate in terms of household populations and then geographic considerations and just kind of the makeup of the municipality. Yeah.
Okay, just one final thought.
Mhm.
Thank you. So when the increase that's recommended, does that take into consideration the municipality, our policy around remuneration now is cost of living at a certain point of the year, I think, if I remember, for council salaries, does that take that into account already or?
Well, the cost of living increase is usually January 1st every year. It's an annual allocation. So this would be 2024 that we're recommending here. So
And then
if you make
COLA
an
on top of
adjustment, then you add COLA.
Yes, so our policy is that effective January 1st of each year, the COLA is the CPI at October 31st. October 31st, yeah, October. CPI of the previous year. Yeah, all items Ontario.
And it's a maximum of 3, right?
Maximum 3, minimum 1.5.
We did that. That
Right.
was good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right, any other questions? So we have recommendations in front of us, and actually there are a few of our comparators, Deputy Mayor Black, that are in around the same population base that we are, Springwater. Yeah, there are a bunch that are, the local ones, no, but yeah, with Greater Napanee dropping out, I think they might have even been a little bigger, but they didn't want to share, so. We have these recommendations in front of us, so what is council's pleasure? Moved by Councillor Boyko, seconded by Councillor Koulis, all in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll see you later. All right, we will now move on to reports for direction, Janice Lavalley on township properties.
Sure, thank you very much. Yeah, as part of our 2024 work plan, council had asked staff to have a look at our list of township owned properties with a view to identifying any lands that we could consider further surplus to the township's needs. So we have provided you with 2 lists there, one with those parcels that could potentially be considered surplus and the balance of our properties on the second list. So on that first list of vacant parcels, really, we're looking at those ones which may otherwise be unencumbered. And I do say may, because there's still a lot of work to do on all of these parcels or most of these parcels, but they may be unencumbered in other ways and of sufficient size that would warrant further review in terms of their development potential and whether or not they're suitable for disposition. With a reasonable expectation of financial gain. There would be a lot of work involved in any of these dispositions. There's technical reviews involved, title search, surveys, appraisal fees, legal fees, administrative costs. So there is a lot of work and cost involved in moving these properties forward. some examples there would be looking at environmental constraints, encroachment issues, neighborhood considerations, why the parcels were dedicated to us in the first place, which is a bit of a history lesson in a lot of cases. And sometimes we just never really can actually figure that out. But anyway, so it's a lot of work to go back through that. And just, we have gone through these processes before, quite a number of years ago. We came up with a similar list. We started moving through the list. We were successful in a couple of sales. We ran into some significant neighborhood issues with some others, and those sales never proceeded. So it just can very quickly become controversial, time consuming, and costly for both camp staff. So kind of given those issues and the process that we have to follow for disposition, I'm really just recommending that this become a standing item on our work plan moving forward, so that we would continue to work through the majority of the list as time and resources allow, to kind of knock them off and see which ones are, potentially worth going through that process. There is one, Samus Drive, that's a lot in Lakefield that we actually did create several years ago. At the same time, we created 2 lots at that time, I think it was closing a road, or was it 3? 3, yeah, 3rd. Sorry, 3. And with the intention that ultimately it would be sold. The other, one lot was donated to Habitat and the other one was purchased by Habitat, if I remember correctly. So there is the remaining 3rd lot, which I think is a viable building lot that we could, proceed with the sale of that property in 2025. Certainly, we'd have to come back to council with another report that properly deems it surplus, and gets direction from council in terms of what's that method of sale, minimum bid, that sort of thing. So that will come back to council prior to that process moving forward. Again, a lot of potential costs related to dispositions, technical review fees, surveys, title search, appraisal fees, legal fees, administrative costs. So we can't really tell you what the value we're going to get out of it is until all of those things are determined, and all of those costs would be taken out of any proceeds that we ultimately receive. So with that, I will leave it with you and try and answer any questions you have.
Deputy Mayor Black.
Yeah, thank you, through Mayor. Thank you for this report. It's very detailed, and I really appreciate getting a picture of, I guess there's 17 on your list of properties here, and granted, there will be pushback on some of them if we consider them, because in a lot of cases, neighbors are taking care of these properties and have taken care of them and had some use of them over the years. But again, they are township properties, and we are always facing fiscal issues as far as dollars and reserves and those sorts of things. So I think it's incumbent on us as a council to look at them. Your recommendation to include them as a standing item in your work plan, I think, is a good idea. How long do you think it would take to get through this list of 17 through the work plan process? Again, understanding some will be way more complicated than others. Some won't be, like the one you've just asked us about, Shamus, won't be that difficult because it's already zoned and everything else to move forward. So property values have, as we all know, have gone through the roof. So there is value in most of these properties, I would assume. Whether it makes sense to dispose of them, I think is obviously each one of them has their own, will have their own positives and negatives. And I think, at some point council will have to make those decisions as to whether they move forward or not. So I'm not suggesting by any means that these 17 properties are, need to be disposed of, but I think it's worth looking into each one of them. And there may be some lower hanging fruit on this list than others that can be brought forward sooner. And some will be very complicated. Some of the larger lots that, might involve subdivision use or whatever down the road might be different. So my question really is, from work plan process, these 17, how long do you think that would take to get through them?
Honestly, I really don't know. It really depends what type of issue we run into with them. And certainly in terms of kind of fitting it into the other commitments that we have in terms of our day-to-day work and projects that council's directed us to do. I really can't answer that question. It won't be in year 1. It won't be in year 2, maybe year 3, year 4. It really depends how complicated they become. Yeah.
There'll be a concerted effort in the work plan to try and get through 1 a quarter or something like that, or, because there's, I mean, if we only do a couple each year, there's 6 or 7 years worth of.
Yeah, and I think we'd, as I say, kind of put it in the work plan. There'd be a concerted effort to get through what we can, but I wouldn't want to commit to any certain number because again, you don't know what kind of issues you're going to run into with 1 or 2. So
Right.
that could really railroad your ability to get on to more of them. So I think it's just, we would work through them as quickly as possible. But again, we have to understand that we only have so many resources to get that work done. And there is a lot involved in each one.
Thank you.
Councillor Boyka.
Thank you through you, Mayor Sennis. And yes, thank you very much for this report. I really appreciated seeing all of those pieces of property. And I'm going to, I haven't yet, but I'm going to drive around and try to see as many as I can. Some look like they're very suitable. That's the word you've used in paragraph 4, suitable for sale. And some obviously aren't. They're very tiny and just where they are, they'll sit there forever, and that's absolutely fine. I guess what I'm looking at is your paragraph 4. It says suitability for sale. So when you're looking at criteria of this list, the criteria that I saw that fits your suitability for sale is reasonable expectation of a sale and the potential for financial benefit. Is there another criteria other than the reasonable expectation of sale, potential financial benefit, that it would rise to the top of the list like the Samus property did? Any other criteria that you would look at?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of rising to the top of the list, it really depends on just from a very cursory view, which one looks easier than another, right? And
I appreciate your honesty. That's great.
If
Yeah.
we can sell them as a developable lot, that's great.
Right.
Sometimes there are smaller ones. So maybe we're not looking at selling it as a developable lot, but we're going to look at it, see if there's any encumbrances, just what the nature of the lot is. And then maybe we try and dispose of it to a neighbor or to a couple of.
Right.
So there's there's different ways of looking at these parcels, and that's the process that we would need to go through. And then, of course, you get into conversations with the adjacent property owners. So that just can take a lot of time.
Understand. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Follow up if I could. There are some properties that seem to be on sale. And again, I confess to not knowing a whole lot about some of those properties, but I know about a couple of them. That it would seem like a suitability for sale, but would there be a consideration for suitability for other use? For example, if something is a location and size that would be something that Mike could look at as this could potentially be a park, would that be something else that would be looked at through this rather than just suitability for sale, suitability for use to be utilized in another way rather than simply sitting there vacant? Is that something else that would be looked at when these properties are being examined?
Yeah, for sure. I think we'd always consider that. I think the nature of most of these properties, if you're thinking of parkland, they haven't been used for that. So probably if there was felt to be a need or they were suitable, they probably would already. But for sure, we're not gonna sell something that's going to be more valuable to us to keep to provide our services.
Okay, perfect. So when these properties are being looked at in the work plans, it'll be suitability for sale using the criteria that we've discussed and suitability for reuse. Okay, excellent. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and absolutely, it would always come back to council because council has to have a resolution deeming these properties surplus before we move forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you.
If there are no other comments or questions, we have a recommendation in front of us. I'm looking for someone to move that recommendation. Councillor Poulos, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much. We'll now move on, Janice, to the provision of the sidewalk policy.
Sure, thank you again. Again, as directed by council, I believe it was late last year, we have come forward with the proposed policy for the provision of sidewalks. The policy is actually very similar to our current practices, but it does really document those procedures for the consideration of sidewalks for both new development and existing development areas within our settlement areas as designated in the OP. So that would be Bridge North, Ennismore, Lakefield, and Youngs Point, and for the rural areas. So the policy is there for your review and any questions or comments that you might have. You'll note that we do have reference to a couple of schedules, our urban road design and our rural road design. They are currently being prepared for us by the County of Peterborough. We just don't have those final versions yet. So they would definitely be attached to the policy once we've got those. And the expectation is it would be very early in 2025 when those would be available for us.
Thank you for preparing this report. It's something that we haven't had in the past, and it's good to have it in the back pocket. And are there any questions for Janice or comment? Councilor Boyd.
Yes, thank you very much. I've been looking forward to this report, and I'm happy to see that it's here, and I'm happy to see the way that it is written. I think this is tremendous, and thank you very much for bringing this forward. If I look at number 1, settlement areas 1.1A, I love the idea that it says the word shall. Roadways within new development shall be constructed in accordance with the urban standard, and which includes the sidewalks on one side. I understand the provision that you've just said with respect to the county. And I think that's terrific. I think not required for cul-de-sacs makes sense. And both sides of the street, if there's schools nearby and other institutions, that makes absolute sense. When I skip down to 3.1, now we're looking at here's all of the things that might mean that we can't put a sidewalk in, and all of these things make sense too. At the bottom of 3.1, there's a paragraph that says, should it be determined that a sidewalk is not necessary or feasible to be constructed on one side of the street. I don't know why it would say it's not necessary when we've said in 1.1 that all areas shall have a sidewalk. So maybe you could explain what you mean by all of a sudden it's not necessary. Feasible, I understand, because feasible could mean, I won't read the list, but the A to I list, that makes sense. So maybe what do you mean by it suddenly it says it shall has gone to if it's determined the sidewalk's not necessary?
So for new development, you don't go through that feasibility analysis. That feasibility analysis is only for existing developed areas.
Yeah.
So there may be an area where going through that feasibility analysis, it just isn't possible to put a sidewalk. And that's in that type of an area where there's existing development. So that's what that analysis would do for you. So that's why that section refers to completing the analysis.
No, I understand. So the sidewalk is still necessary. It's just that we can't do it for whatever reason. So.
Well, and there could be circumstances where it isn't necessary. You know, if you had like I guess a cul-de-sac is a dead end road, but you might have a very short section of road that council would deem or staff would recommend that there isn't a need for a sidewalk. So that was the intention of that whole analysis piece, to give us the opportunity to take a good look at what's happening on the ground at the time that a road is being reconstructed, to determine whether or not it's feasible and necessary.
Okay, but through you, Mayor Sanis, I think that goes back to my question where it says in 1.1A, the word shall be constructed down to, but they're not necessary.
Right, but 1.1A is for new development.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Not for existing development.
I understand. So again, no, I understand. And the second question with respect to that paragraph, I'm still looking at the last paragraph at the end of 3.1. And again, I'm not challenging, I'm just trying to understand, is where it says that the manager of public works shall prepare a report to council outlining the results of the analysis. So here's the road, here is the street. And as a result of A or B or C or D, anything on that list, it's not feasible for a sidewalk. So that would that report come with a cost analysis? I know it says I as cost implications. So where does cost implication come? Would it say, for example, I'm just again trying to understand, down the road, this council, the next council looks at it and says, if we were to put a sidewalk here, C says there's obstructions. We would have to move 2 utility poles in order for that sidewalk to happen. Would it come with a cost analysis that says, yes, and it would cost us this much to do so? Would that be part of the report? Is that how you see this playing out?
Yeah, so I think Adam would like to speak to that.
Is that,
Yeah, sure. Through you, Madam
Yeah.
Mayor. Yeah, I think at a high level, when we're looking at a road design, we'd be engaging a consultant. So at really preliminary design stages, we
Yeah.
weigh those options, right? And so through a technical review with the engineer, they would do kind of a cost benefit analysis at a high level, really to see one, if the road width is and the road allowance is big enough and there aren't enough impertinences in the way that we could put a sidewalk in there. And then we look at a little bit of a cost benefit analysis at a high level at the preliminary design stage of that, before we get into detailed design. Like, those things can be kind of weighed out at a high level right at the initial design stage. So that report will come back with some of those suggestions in that.
Okay, great.
recommendations in that.
Okay, 3 Mercedes. So it would come back to council and council would look at it and say, yes, it would cost this much to do these things, get rid of that pole, cut down those trees, whatever. But we are willing to pay that price. And okay, I understand now. Good. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Councillor Coates?
Through you, thanks. I just want to clarify the cost implications. Is that just to construct the sidewalk or is that maintenance over time as well?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Good question. Yeah, there'd be maintenance implications with any piece of sidewalk. So I mean, we could do some high level estimates on what that would increase by, depending on the length of road we're doing, right? I mean, if it's a smaller street we're doing in one of the settlement areas, the maintenance implications might not be as high, but we can definitely incorporate that into the report to go along with the actual capital work that would be involved with installing a sidewalk too, just for comparison.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Black.
Thank you, through Mayor. Just with respect to rural areas, sidewalks will not be constructed. Absolutely agree with that. We can't maintain those roads really well if there's that kind of obstruction. And it suggests providing a widening road surface, 1.5 meters paved shoulders. I know from the police board experience I've had over the years, that's where we have our complaints. There's no shoulder. When I was on council the last time, we had the issue with East Communications in Bridge North, that subdivision was built with shoulders about this wide. And the decision there was to put a sidewalk in on the one side, which was great. But in the case, so I understand, again, depending where the road is, within the road allowance, there may not be the ability to widen the shoulder with some additional gravel. So I get all those things, and we'll get that report back from roads on road with geometrics. But the other option I think we should consider is if we can't put a sidewalk in an existing settlement area, that we do look at widening the shoulder. That's what happened in Bridge North, because again, those roads were built without any walking surface on them at all. Where a sidewalk can't be put in a subdivision, a settlement area, the option to widen the shoulder to create a walking surface at least, I think should be considered.
Through you, Madam Mayor. That'd be part of the review in the settlement area. I mean, widening the shoulder where it's feasible is a good option if we're not gonna put the sidewalk there, but if we're widening the shoulder in a lot of the settlement areas that maybe don't have sidewalk already, they're ditches and culverts. So we might not have the real estate to widen that road any further than it is. If we are gonna widen it, then we're into putting in stormwater infrastructure. And at that point, then the feasibility of a sidewalk probably makes more sense because we're already putting all that infrastructure in the ground. So I mean, that would all kind of come out in that feasibility study, right? In that report coming back. I mean, it's pretty hard to widen a road within one of the settlement areas without getting into some significant stormwater infrastructure. It's something we can do in the urban or the urban area or the rural area, sorry. And that's what we're doing on like the 6th line with our road reconstruction. Where we can widen it, we are taking that opportunity to widen it, but we're pretty constrained in some of the settlement areas to do that.
Yeah, I just think it should be an option if we can't provide a sidewalk that we at least try and provide a walking surface, because again, most of the complaints that come through police are rural roads, not settlement areas typically.
So is that covered in the policy? Is it?
Yeah, so I think both of those points, we could probably just tweak it a little bit just to address the, the maintenance implications and other options that might be available.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes.
Through this, and if you can't answer this, I'm happy to have it in email or something later, but is there a hierarchy or distinction of roads where you can and cannot walk in our township? Like, I'm just thinking, is there legislation or specifically regulation that outlines different types of roads where people are not supposed to be pedestrians or use it in a pedestrian sense? all the roads? Okay, that's what I was thinking, but because I'm just thinking, are we creating this policy and adding these subsets saying, yeah, you can, when really that's not what you're supposed to do? And are we putting ourselves in a bad position doing so?
Who would like to answer that? Adam?
So you, Madam Mayor, I think like when we're riding the roads and stuff, we've mentioned this before, like we're not making it as a pedestrian walkway on the side of the road. We know people do walk some of the rural roads, so we are trying to widen it to accommodate that, but you know, we don't designate that as a walking surface and we don't treat it in our minimum maintenance standards as a walking surface either. We treat it as a road. So I think that's just a careful distinction you want to make. We are trying to help pedestrians and safety in the rural areas, but I mean, we're not defining that as a walkway or a path or a trail.
Yeah, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Black.
Yeah, so what about bicycle traffic? Are they allowed bicycle traffic?
Yeah, the Highway Traffic Act permits bikes on roadways. It's permitted in the legislation.
But again, this is just a widened roadway. It's not a bike lane. It's,
No.
yeah. It's just a shoulder. Yeah.
So how would we proceed with this? There is a recommendation, but there are going to be a couple of tweaks. So do you want us to give a motion with what the tweaks would be or hold off passing it until you come back with something? What?
I think it's really minor, if you're comfortable with,
Comfortable with that?
Yeah, I'll move that motion.
All right. Moved by Councillor Boyko, seconded by Deputy Mayor Black. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Now Angela is going to talk about dog licensing amendments.
Sorry. Just the introduction
the
just
dogs
sounded
in.
funny, yeah. I won't go through all of the amendments. There are several of them, but I just wanted to kind of generally outline. Peterborough Humane Society does the enforcement of our animal control bylaw. We would like to have them manage the licensing portion, take that away from our staff having to do that. Peterborough Humane Society uses a system called DocuPet. It's very user-friendly. It's easy for customers to register their dogs. They can find their lost dog using the system as well. The Humane Society uses it if there are any animals that come into their care and they're trying to match them up with the pet owner. So we are recommending that licensing component be transferred over to the Humane Society. Won't be an additional charge that the Humane Society will charge us. They already use DocuPet and their license will essentially be extended to us through the arrangement they already have with them. There will be a cost, of course, for the township to have the licenses issued to each individual pet owner. There's a small fee that DocuPet collects to do that process for us. So in order to move forward with that change, there's a couple of amendments that we will need to make. Probably the biggest one is to remove the one-time fee that was implemented in 2019, but actually came into effect in 2021. We thought that this would be a great way to get people to, kind of license their pet one time and reduce the burden of work for us, but it hasn't done that at all. So, and the other thing about it is that if they have the one-time fee, they never interact with us at all. So we have no idea if they've moved or if the pet's passed away. And then we have a lot of outdated information. So for those reasons, we're recommending that that fee be eliminated as of January 1st moving forward. Anybody who currently has a one-time license, they will keep that. That won't affect anybody that's currently benefiting from that. So that would be one of the changes. We would then change our late fee to match at the time when we issue the invoice, and we would plan to move to a 365-day license as opposed to an annual license, which it is now. So essentially, whenever somebody licensed the pet, that's the date their license starts on. So that will require a few changes to the animal control bylaw. They're all listed there below. I won't want to bore you with them. It was boring to write it. And then we do also have just a small little change, not necessarily related to pet licensing, but it's just an issue that's come up with short-term rentals or any kind of tenancy, just in terms of the definition of an owner. So we're taking the opportunity to tidy that up. And I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Blunt.
Thank you, through Mayor. So with the document, it said, I believe it was a $2 fee or something for them to be processed. So the township still gets the rest of the fees.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that's.
Yeah. So all those fees will help with our actual costs to have the Humane Society manage our enforcement.
The annual fee thing, from a productivity point of view, makes a lot of sense, but you're saying it created as many problems as it solved. But so with the document, do they get notification each year that your license is due?
Yes. So the
Automation?
Yep. The dog owner will get a notice from DocuPet saying it's time to renew your license. Yep. It can all be done online.
So from a compliance point of view, who's responsible for follow-up with that if they don't respond?
DocuPet.
DocuPet.
Yep.
Will keep responding. At what point does the township get notified that they haven't renewed their license?
Yeah, we did ask that question and we did determine that DocuPet just continues to send out the renewal with the late fee, and they generally get people paying, or they'll find out that maybe the dog has passed away. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it isn't there aren't a great number that just never pay.
Right. Oh, just so from a, again, reporting point of view, is there an annual report you get on the number and who and like, how do we have that information?
Yeah,
for
we
I guess they're doing the dog catching now, so
Yep.
it's not our dog catcher anymore.
They actually do the enforcement and they give us an annual bill. So, or sorry, a monthly bill, pardon me. So we're going to work our way through that. I don't know whether we want to do it monthly or quarterly or annually, but we'll work our way through that.
Okay, thank you.
Right. If there are no other questions, there's quite a long recommendation there. Would like to move it. Councillor Koulis is moving it. Deputy Mayor Black is seconding it. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. And we will now move on to Adam Tobin with municipal consents.
Thanks. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just by way of a bit of background information, I'm presenting a report on the municipal consent fees with the accelerated high-speed internet program that the province is undertaking. There's a large investment in rural internet that's planned to be completed by 2025. They just awarded those contracts in August of 2022, so they've got a really ambitious deadline on trying to fast track these programs. So we've received a lot of applications from some of the internet service providers to install their infrastructure within our road allowance. So through the Telecommunications Act, they do have the right to use our road allowance to install telecommunications. But through the act, municipalities are not only allowed to, but they're encouraged to set the terms for the consent in a way that protects the long-term interests of the ratepayers and the residents. So the mechanism in that is municipal consent. So the ISPs, the internet service providers, apply for municipal consent for the township to install their infrastructure within our right of way. We have that opportunity to review and comment on where it goes. So, you know, they have the right to put it in the roadway, but we basically tell them where it can go. So we review these applications, which can be quite time consuming, and we try to mitigate any future damage to that infrastructure, but also any future issues we might see with capital projects we're doing or just general road maintenance. So we typically try to keep it out of the road and out of the ditches. If we can get it close to the property line where we don't have to worry about tree trimming, we don't have to worry about interfering with it when we're ditching or doing culvert replacements. That's when we're kind of taking the opportunity to comment on it now, so that in 15 or 20 years from now, you know, my predecessor isn't cursing me because I let them put it in the ditch or in the road. So really what we're asking, and this is consistent with the other municipalities in the area and the county as well, is just to be able to recover some of our costs, just as a cost recovery for reviewing and approving these applications as well as inspecting them on site. So my recommendation is regarding municipal consent fees be received for information, and that the tariff and fees bylaw be updated to include an application cost of $250, which will be updated annually based on CPI, all items Ontario.
Okay, so this would be for any new applications, any that are in the process right now would not be affected?
Yeah, no, it'd just be through Madam Mayor, for new applications. It wouldn't be fair to apply this fee on applications already in queue.
Okay, how are we doing? There was one company, I can't remember the name of it, that was trying to get me because they weren't happy with you. How are we doing with them? Because I didn't call them.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to be fair, they weren't just happy with me. It's a common theme I put across other Ontario with that company. We're moving forward, so we've had meetings with Infrastructure Ontario, the county and neighboring townships, and as well as that ISP provider as well. Really, a lot of the ISP companies are providing their applications and their drawings, and they're trying to put the infrastructure in as cheap as they can, right? Because they want to be able to recover some costs. Now, that being said, it is a grant, right? They are getting money for this, so it's a subsidized program. So they're sending these applications in and, you know, they want to install this infrastructure with the least amount of effort they have to put into it. So when we say maybe we don't necessarily want it on the road or we want it off to the side, then, you know, that's at a cost to them, right? So they're trying to do this as cheap as possible. So there has been a lot of back and forth regarding techniques used and offsets, which we have provided them utility clearance requirements and some of our standards. It's just a matter of getting them to refine some of their drawings before they even submit them and just save a lot of the back and forth. But the long-winded answer, I guess, I have been in touch with Infrastructure Ontario and they do support our efforts. So we are working to kind of find compromise on some areas where we might be willing to allow a reduced clearance in some areas, but you know, it has to be a two-way street.
Okay, all right, thank you. Are there any questions of Adam with regards to this? I'm looking for someone to move in. Councillor Boyko, Councillor Kulis, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. All right, we are done the consents. We are going to be going into closed. Before we do, can I have Madam Clerk read the bylaws down to the confirming one that we can pass those and then move into closed session?
Sure thing. So 76, the zoning bylaw amendment for the Triple T lot. 77, zoning bylaw amendment for the lot just across the road here. Authorizing bylaw for a merger agreement related to the Glover severance. 79, to adopt the policy for provision of sidewalks. And 80, to amend the animal control bylaw.
All right, I need someone to move these bylaws. Deputy Mayor Black and Councillor Kulis, all in favor. That's carried. And I'm looking for someone. Is there any other new or unfinished business that anyone wants to speak to? Seeing none, I need a motion to move into closed. Councillor Boyko, Councillor Kulis, all in favor. That's carried. We'll be going in the other room.
We'll just go into the next room. Maybe we'll take a real quick break so we could set up the room, and I think Amanda's going to join us as well from Jean's firm.
Okay, so 5 minutes. Yeah. It's good.
So